When we look at the way he's trying to bully and push his way into EU politics, it's very similar to what we've seen in the US, where he picks an issue, he drives a ton of misinformation about that issue, and then he watches as the chaos unfolds.
If he steps out too far over his skis, he is going to get punished. We did not elect President Elon Musk. We elected Donald Trump.
Is Musk ultimately good or bad for democracy?
I think anybody that greedy is a net bad for society.
Depends how you define democracy. I think Musk has been a net positive for the world and for America.
Nigel Farage thought that Elon Musk was his best buddy. Then Nigel Farage got turned on by Elon Musk. Could Elon Musk turn on Donald Trump? Welcome to 2025. It's going to be one hell of a ride, not just because of Donald Trump moving into the White House on the 20th of January. And of course, everyone around the world is rearranging their furniture according to what the new president might or might not do. But the other person we need to talk about is, of course, Elon, as in Musk, as in the world's richest man, as in Donald Trump's best friend, who's practically moved into Mar-a-Lago with some of his children and his mother, in recent months. He's going to be in charge of the Doge department for slimming down the federal bureaucracy. He already owns one of the biggest social media platforms on the planet, X, and he's used that power not just to get, he would say, Trump elected, but also to disrupt politics in this country and in Germany, which faces its own federal election on the 23rd of February. So we need to talk about Elon Musk. How rich is he? How powerful is he? How far does he go with that power? Lots of stuff to talk about. Here to discuss it, we've got Professor Joan Donovan from the University of Boston, the Professor of Journalism, Assistant Professor of Journalism, and we have Albert Eisenberg. He's a Republican strategist, today talking to me from Charleston, South Carolina. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joan, let me start with you then. Who's more powerful at the moment, Donald Trump or Elon Musk?
Well, I think Trump is going to move into power on January 20th, but for right now, he's functionally inert. But Musk is definitely, by virtue of the fact that he really funded Trump's campaign, is really in the driver's seat here. And, money really does open doors. It opens doors to power. It creates all kinds of interdependencies between the party and Musk. And so, unfortunately, it does look like Musk is at the head of the table on this one.
Albert, let me ask you, do you think that Trump could have got elected without the help, financial and otherwise, of Elon Musk?
That's a great question. I think victory has 1,000 fathers and defeat is an orphan. So there's a lot of reasons why Trump won a convincing electoral college and popular vote victory. I think Elon putting his money where his mouth is and buying the social media platform X, I don't think he had a huge financial incentive to do it. And in fact, got caught up in litigation in Delaware on the price per share. It ended up pretty much overpaying for X, but I believe that it was an investment he made based on values of free speech, open discourse, and a lot of conservative people, a lot of just free-thinking people have been cut out of X and other social media platforms over the last few years for saying things that were kind of just normal things to say that ended up being true. So taking over X and allowing for more open discourse on the platform, I think did help conservatives and non-traditional, non-legacy media people kind of get their viewpoints out.
So, Joan, I mean, certainly in terms of values for Elon Musk, but also there seems to be an alignment between values of his principles and the values of money, because since Trump got elected, Elon has got a lot richer.
Yeah, it's astounding the amount of money that has been generated by this decision. And I think part of it is...
How much, by the way? Remind us of the numbers.
Well, he was roughly around, I think, 250 billion. And then there's been an exponential increase in the last 2 months of at least, I think, 70 billion or more. I don't know where it stands now, but the last number I read was he had about $400 billion, something in that range. And that's more money than one can count, right? This is an astronomical amount of money. And that kind of power that you have just when people know you have that kind of money allows you to do things like buy an entire social media network, and not just buy it, but completely retool it so that Musk is always and forever at the top of everyone's feeds, and that the message from the Republican Party was landing with each and every X user, particularly after July of last year, when Musk changed the algorithms and also really fundamentally changed the structure of what we would call free speech online.
I mean, also, let's just take a step back. Having acknowledged the fact that the investment of a couple of $100 million into Trump's campaign really paid off for Musk. If he made, some people would say 70, 80 billion dollars since election day. But also, let's take
cynical way to look at it, Matt.
Well, it's an incredible investment for him, right? And it's also an investment in terms of power.
Yeah, but I do think the investment he made is more that it's a values-based investment. Like Joan said, he has more money than he can count. I'm sure he's happy to be richer than he was a few months ago. But he also happens to get very rich
at the same time. I mean,
it's
values and the value of money. Tick, tick. What's there not to
love?
But
he's different from other billionaires. I should just say that, other billionaires have pledged their wealth to philanthropic causes. Musk he's not rich, he's greedy. Right. So there is this kind of way in which American oligarchs have, done their own version of democracy by ensuring that their wealth gets recirculated. Musk, though, is just padding his own pockets.
I don't think so. I think he's providing a lot of value to people. I mean, he's revolutionized electric cars.
Albert? Is Musk? Where's the Musk Foundation for education and?
Yeah, but he's a technological entrepreneur. He's completely remade. I mean, if you ask most liberals, what's the most important thing we could all do? It's to transition to electric vehicles. Nobody has been more responsible than Elon Musk for that transition. I think his development of SpaceX, his development of Starlink is advancing society. I don't disagree. Joan, with the critiques of him centering himself in the conversation. I think it's a little overkill, but I don't think you need to start a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to have a positive impact on society, but I'm a capitalist.
Okay. Just quickly trying to put, Musk into a historical context. I mean, there's some fabulously wealthy individuals, some of whom have been philanthropic and some of whom have been not. There's Jeff Bezos. There's Bill Gates, who you just mentioned, his ex-wife Melinda. Then you've got, going back all the way to Hearst, William Randolph Hearst, Citizen Kane. If you take all these extraordinary characters and you put them in one line, there's no one ever been quite like Elon Musk, has there? First to you, Albert.
I think he is a singular technological force that has envisioned and executed on a staggering number of ideas and has transformed our tech sphere, the way that we operate, and will continue to. And I think if he is used in an effective way on DOJA, for example, on reducing the bloat in federal government that is weighing down the United States debt levels and also going to endanger Western Europe, because the United States will not have the resources to protect democracy abroad if we keep spending money like we have. I think he will be extremely well used, and I'm interested to see how they use him.
But what I was really getting at is that, he makes rockets, he makes cars. He's going to be sitting, in the cabinet of Donald J. Trump with a new...
I don't think he'll be cabinet.
Well, whatever, but he'll be...
His rockets and cars are also subsidized by the U.S. government. I
was going to get onto that. So these things are subsidized by the state. You could argue that he wouldn't have got Tesla or SpaceX off the ground without the help of the federal government. But he's also getting massively involved in the politics of his own country. I mean, literally by sitting at the table of power, even if it's not the cabinet. He's trying to get involved in British and German politics and God knows where else. I mean, there has never been someone quite like that, has there, Joan?
As someone who's read a lot of history, but I'm not a historian myself, I don't recall anyone that's had this amount of impact in such short order. If you think about the ways in which Musk interacted with, let's say, the Obama administration, or even the Biden administration, he wasn't necessarily that interested in governance. Here, something has shifted where he's now, he's invented a phantom department based on his own wealth and vision of how government should be run, and he has absolutely no experience within that realm. And he's decided that the things that Americans depend on every day, like Social Security and like other kinds of government safety net subsidies, are going to go away. He's going to cut the bloat out of government. And he's unelected, he's unaccountable, and this department literally does not exist, right? But we treat it as if it exists because what is the other option? Getting sued out of existence? Because the other thing that Musk does, which I don't think he plays fair in terms of trying to shut down the speech of other people, he's sued nonprofits that have had research that they've conducted about his companies that he doesn't like. And even, to Albert's point earlier about, the platforms were shutting down conservative voices. Who's got the ban hammer now?
Albert, right. He loves free speech as long as it's not against him.
I mean, I would say that X is a much more open place that you can express any number of opinions, including on the left, than it was before. And beforehand, it was pretty much you could be party line with the left. And if you got too far out of line, your speech was shut down. And that's why they tried to ban it in Brazil, for example. Yeah, I mean, there is actually an example of a multi-billionaire who has meddled in elections across the United States and internationally on the left, and his name is George Soros.
Let's leave the Soros family for another day, but certainly
okay.
Fruitful terrain for discussion. I want to turn to the European Union. Why do you think Elon Musk, has it in for the EU and specifically the governments of this country and Germany? First, you, Joan.
Well, I think, power is its own currency here, and he doesn't, have the political clout, nor does he have the expertise to be able to do this in a way that is democratic. He has to buy his way in. Someone who was recently demonetized on X, Laura Loomer, says, you bought your way into MAGA 5 minutes ago. And I think it's true that the way in which Musk enters into politics is with a very heavy financial hand that creates an incredible amount of interdependencies. And so when we look at the way he's trying to bully and push his way into EU politics, it's very similar to what we've seen in the US, where he picks an issue, he drives a ton of misinformation about that issue, he points the finger at people that are not to blame, and then he, watches as the chaos unfolds.
Albert, I want to know from you, I mean, Donald Trump and Keir Starmer have kind of made up with each other. They had that, dinner in New York. Keir Starmer's explained some of the things that were said by him and others that might have been off color about Donald Trump in the past. So how come Trump's best friend Musk hasn't got the message? Because he's really going for Keir Starmer. How do you explain that? Where's that coming from?
It's hard to know what the communication is off Twitter. It's hard to know who's at what table and what's being said. When you write something and you're in politics, you check with other people sometimes, sometimes you don't. And that's the danger, the social danger of a platform like X, where people can unvarnished share their opinions.
But the reason why they're even making this point is that he is incredibly wealthy. He has the ear of the most powerful man, soon to be the most powerful man on the planet.
Yeah,
as Joan said, it's unchecked, untethered, unaccountable.
Well, it's not unchecked. There's going to be political ramifications for what he does. And if he steps out too far over his skis, he is going to get punished. We did not elect President Elon Musk. We elected Donald Trump. He has many, many advisors, including longstanding people from his history. This is something everyone left, right, and center knows about Trump, is that he gets a lot of opinions. He listens to a lot of people. He has a lot of people close to him. Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, first female chief of staff to come into the White House, ran his campaign, extremely disciplined. I would recommend that your listeners and viewers check out the Axios interview with her yesterday, where she said we're going to have a no drama White House. The people that I'm talking to on the transition team are telling me that it is light years stronger than the 2016, 2017 transition team. So there's a lot of other stuff that's happening. And my last point is that there will be repercussions if Elon gets over his skis. And I think that he's going to have to be reined in and pulled into Doja and not necessarily foreign policy.
But I just wonder, when she says she wants a no drama White House, I mean, Elon Musk is the embodiment of drama. How's that going to work? Is he going to be sidelined? Is Trump going to sort of put him into a distant, I don't know, maybe some distant cabin in Camp David to keep him quiet and out of sight?
It'll be interesting to see. I think if the Trump team is able to get Elon focused on specific things, I don't think he's dramatic with his Tesla. I mean, he built the world's most valuable car maker from scratch, and it's been incredibly effective. Yeah, there's bluster. He's a big personality CEO. That he's not alone in that.
He bought his way into Tesla. He didn't invent Tesla. He sued his way into being called a founder.
He built Tesla effectively himself and has revolutionized the electric vehicle market globally. That's not even how technology
works. Like nobody is like the sole founder, inventor of.
I mean, the guy who bought the Coca-Cola recipe in 1890s didn't invent Coca-Cola, but he made the company. Elon is Tesla. Everyone knows that.
I think people that work at Tesla, especially the people who were there when it started, had a vision, not unlike other visions for electronic cars. What set Tesla apart was that it was a luxury sedan. It wasn't being made economically, with small seats, like the contemporary cars of the time. I mean, Tesla has a brilliant marketing team, despite Elon's
and a great product.
It's online. I mean, I don't know. I like Detroit muscle, so I'm a different breed.
Just on the potential conflicts there, and quick answers, please. Albert, you first. Is it possible? Is it inevitable, as many people have suggested, that Trump's going to get fed up with people like us talking about Elon and not Donald?
Possibly.
Do you think he'll sideline Elon Musk?
I think Elon needs to stay focused, or he will get over his skis and create problems, and it will mean that there is a rift, potentially.
Joan, do you think there's a problem, a clash of interests here? We've seen this with the H-1B visa issue. You've got Laura Loomer, a sort of a MAGA voice, very much on the populist right, quite close to Trump, famously sharing a couple of rides with Trump on Trump Force One. She has fallen out with Elon Musk in the most spectacular way. They're not talking to each other than with insults. And it's specifically about this issue of the business visas, which Musk himself had once upon a time. They got him started in the US. And she's saying, actually, that doesn't work because that is taking away, that's giving jobs to foreigners that should be going to, white middle-class Americans or even black middle-class Americans.
Yeah, well, there was a big debate during the campaign around this notion of quote unquote black jobs, where Trump was claiming that migrants and immigrants were coming to the country and were taking low wage work away from black Americans. And that argument was something that resonated very well. It made MAGA really excited to want to vote for Trump. There were only a few issues that really mattered in this election, and what to do about immigration was probably the penultimate issue. Albert and I could probably agree on that. And what came about afterwards, though, was very interesting. And it has a lot to do with how we think about the American dream in the US. Whereas, Musk wanted to say, I am the American dream. I'm an immigrant who came here. He claims to have struggled, but his father tells a different story. But he achieved the American dream. He, and he's now, richer for it. That idea of the American dream only plays well on the left. When you go deep into the heart of MAGA, the idea that America was won by conquest. America is not a land full of immigrants. And so MAGA rejects this notion that Musk is the embodiment of the American dream, which is also one of the fundamental ways in which we rationalize these H-1B visas, which is that we want America to be the strongest country in the world. How do you do that? Well, as Trump and Elon say, you build up the home team, you get the best players from around the world. What Loomer and Bannon really singled in on it and understood is that's displacing, all of these white Americans that are getting computer science degrees that are no longer eligible for these middle management positions.
Right. Albert, if there's a tussle, a fight, a fist fight between Elon Musk and the likes of Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer, and indeed the MAGA base that has been incredibly loyal to Donald Trump, who wins that fight?
So just quickly to respond, because Joan made a couple racially tinged comments. You talk to a lot of Black American voters who shifted Republican this election and have continued to and will continue to, and they don't really like the migrant hotels being placed in the middle of low income neighborhoods. They feel that their jobs are being taken and that they are people who are coming here illegally are getting to cut the line. And a lot of legal immigrants feel that as well, which is why the Republican Party is diversified so much. Matt, as far as Laura Loomer, she has no constituency on the right. She's tried to run for Congress multiple times, has lost pitifully. She is a loud voice on the fringe. Steve Bannon has a constituency on the right. I think there's an interesting open debate to be had about the H-1B visas, about how much immigration is good for society, and about stopping illegal immigration and hopefully deporting a lot of the people who came here illegally to broke the rules to be here. So those are interesting debates. It's unclear who's going to win, who's going to take the middle path, who's going to capture the undecided factions, but certainly having these debates is good.
Something else, Joan, that may come up, and I wonder what you say about this, is China. So Musk's biggest Tesla factory is in the Shanghai area. It produces almost 1 million cars a year. Trump and many of his foreign policy team are very much focused on containing the power of China, both in terms of trade and in terms of military, and so on. Do you see that becoming a potential point of friction between Musk and Trump?
It certainly is going to become a bigger deal over time, especially as Musk seeks to free up and ease any impediments to shipping his cars around the world, tries to create favorable conditions for his own businesses. This is where investigative journalism is going to have a huge role to play in terms of being able to unearth and understand some of these technicalities. And so I do think that as we shift into this new administration, lots of things are going to have to be renegotiated with China, as well as Russia, as well as Ukraine, as well as Israel, and so it's really going to be a very large and potentially damaging shift in power, especially if it's well known that the super rich are going to get away with padding their own pockets during this transition period.
Just want to talk about journalism quickly. We've seen in a couple of instances that either the Trump administration is going for journalists. There's the case against the Des Moines Register after the publication of a poll just before election day. There's the case against ABC, which ABC settled. Then you've got, apparent alleged examples of self-censorship. This is famously the Washington Post not, publishing an editorial endorsing Kamala Harris before the election. Do you feel that, in the world of the media, with the fourth estate, especially in the United States, where journalism and investigative journalism played such an important role, that Elon Musk especially, but also, Meta and Mark Zuckerberg ending, fact-checking on Facebook today, we heard that, fundamentally, this is something that Trump and Musk can chalk up for a victory for them?
Yeah, I think it's, incredibly important that we don't confuse social media with journalism. Journalism is an incredible profession where people, despite their own personal interest, pursue the truth. And it's a hard job to do. And I think that, we have, because of the way social media has taken up so much of the advertising revenue, we've come to see social media and journalism as similar things, but they're really not. And what I'm hoping for now that there is a very contentious, set of political powerful elites in the US that are dead set on getting rid of journalism, that the profession is going to become more important than ever. And those that stand at the end of these 4 years are going to be, I have a feeling they're going to have some of the stories of our lifetime. They're going to be, the first draft of history, as we say. Right. And but I do worry that, as our major media outlets have been bought by billionaires who have now sought to shape them in their own political image that we are really going to have to advance rather quickly a whole new set of ways of doing journalism that is accountable to the public in the public interest and not to any one CEO.
Albert, what do you think?
Jump in? Yeah, I mean, I think I'll say, like a badly run car company, the legacy media has absolutely degraded its own value in the views of American news consumers, which is why its approval ratings is generally as low as Congress's. And that's a problem of media's own doing, because most of the legacy media outlets, and by that I mean the left-leaning legacy media outlets, basically every local major newspaper in the country, aside from the Wall Street Journal, every TV and cable news station, aside from Fox News, a number of important websites, have degraded themselves and refused to speak truth to power when the power's on the left. And that's inconvenient. Well, let me just finish this point. And my point is that, so the media outlets have refused to, yeah, I'm just going to finish this point. So
$750 million Fox lost for lying.
Yeah, okay. And ABC just has lost $15 million for defaming the president. They have refused to speak. They have refused to speak truth to power when it's inconvenient for them, because they're mostly staffed by very left-leaning people, and that's why no one trusts the legacy media, which I think we can agree on. A lot of important investigative journalism has switched to Substack, which is fascinating, and has shifted to podcasts, because basically, with the legacy media unfortunately refusing to speak truth to power under the Biden administration and publicly announcing they were going to take a big breath after Trump and let's be less adversarial. Of course, they were less adversarial with Biden and his cronies. So that has shifted. So it still exists, Matt, and there's really interesting journalism being done. It's just not being done at the Washington Post anymore.
Okay, Joan?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can agree on part of the end point here is that journalism does need to reform. But I don't think, it was that the Washington Post let up on Biden. That would be ridiculous to even assume, given the amount of stories that they've told.
How about his cognitive decline? Do you remember when the Wall Street Journal published that story about his cognitive decline in spring, and all the other outlets refused to touch it? And now everyone was aware for years. I mean, that's a classic example.
That's true, though, because he, when we talk about older people and we talk about cognitive decline, that, very similar to the way that the Republicans ran a strategy around Hillary's health at the end of her, during her 2016 campaign. These are typical things that come up, but there are elements where Biden comes out and does very cogent speeches that are very smart, well articulated. The policies that he's been able to enact have been able, have helped millions of Americans.
But is that your opinion as a voter or as an objective professor of media?
I don't vote. So, as someone who has to look at, facts as they are, right? We can see that there's very many examples out there where every single politician, when they reach a certain age, face these exact same kind of criticisms. It's nothing new.
Isn't the point whether, Albert, you don't like the Washington Post. I suspect you probably don't like the New York Times. And Joan, maybe you like both of them. I don't know. But the point is that when these discussions take place in those newspapers, they are discussions. And sometimes, the journalists disagree with the editor and the owner, and they end up quitting, as has happened in the Washington Post and has happened before in the New York Times. But getting back to Elon Musk, he has 220 million followers on a platform that he owns. He's both editor-in-chief and publisher. And I don't see that there's a lot of discussion going on inside, the X empire about what Elon should or shouldn't say. And that kind of power, whether you are on the right or the left, that kind of unfettered power, at the end of the day, isn't good for democracy. Question. First to you, Albert.
Well, I think what you just described is basically what the situation would have been when it was big three cable news channels, going through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. before the fragmentation of media and what the unfettered power of somebody who ran a paper like the Philadelphia Inquirer would have been like in the 1980s, 1990s before this breakup.
Yeah, but they had like 1 million readers if they were lucky, or 500,000.
No, I understand the scale is much different when it's a global social media platform, but there have always been, in media is a for-profit endeavor if it's independent. If it's state-run, it's not independent by nature. So there's always been people running this and trying to make money off of it since the pamphleteers and before. And this is just the new iteration of it. My greatest hope is that the legacy media platforms that I believe have undercut their own value by not calling balls and strikes when it comes to the left. That is my opinion as an observer of politics, as a conservative, as somebody who's seen countless stories that have not been reported fairly or not been reported at all. My greatest hope is that publications like the Washington Post hire people with diverse viewpoints and start pursuing news and editorial with a more well-rounded view, and their approval ratings will go up and people will start listening to them again.
Joan, will this, we know that American media has become divided into different silos. It's like different gated communities that don't get on with each other, especially in cable television. Could ultimately the power of someone like Elon Musk, the embodiment of disruption, be good for freedom of speech and the independence of opinion?
One of the things that we've lost when we lost newspapers is this local news angle and learning about things that matter in our communities. The internet has been able, especially social media, has turned all local issues into national and international issues. Yeah. And so I think, one of the things that if we are going to bring social media out of the clouds and back down to earth, and if we are going to regain free speech in America in a way that does represent who we are, then we have to move away from these mega influencers on social media and get back to listening to each other and working in community. I think that's the only thing that's ever worked to save democracy.
And just a quick answer on this one, Joan, you first. Is Musk ultimately good or bad for democracy?
I think anybody that greedy is a net bad for society.
Okay, Albert, what do you think? Same question.
Depends how you define democracy. I think Musk has been a net positive for the world and for America.
Democracy as in the ability of the people to elect the representatives in government with a fair playing field, full transparency, one man, one vote, one woman, one vote.
I think if you can say anything about X, it's transparency, perhaps a little too much of it. So by that barometer, definitely a good thing.
Okay. Next question, also a quick answer, if you don't mind. Who can control or rein in Elon Musk? First, you, Joan.
I don't think anyone's going to be able to. I think the ultimate...
Not even Trump?
No, because what's happening right now is you see this meme of President Musk. That's something that's irking a lot of people in the Trump world. It's starting to become something that's notable, almost to the point where people say it accidentally. Now they don't mean to say President Musk. When you type into
who said that, Joan?
President, autofill comes back with Musk and not Trump. And so, these kind of things tell us that, that there will be a separation, but with money like that and the power that kind of money bestows upon you, Musk could figure out a way to replace Trump.
Of course, Joan, it has to be said that the Democrats, who've been desperately looking for some kind of opposition script since their defeat in November, have pounced on this President Musk meme big time, right? Because this is, for them,
because God forbid they acknowledge their policies are too far to the left.
And Albert, you as a political
I would say, the biggest affront, in my opinion, my personal opinion, to democracy was that the Democrat Party didn't hold a primary. One of the fundamental ways in which we acknowledge and understand ourselves as represented citizens is the very few times we have the ability to make a choice.
And they missed that because of Joe Biden. And then, okay, that's
They
again.
missed it because of Joe Biden. There was no crisis. There was no reason why we
Maybe if we had more media reporting on his cognitive decline that was very obvious, he would have been out earlier. That's what happens when you suppress speech.
You're going down one of those famous cul-de-sacs. We can't do that, or what they call a no-through road in America. Final one to you, Albert. Who can rein in Elon Musk?
I think Elon Musk can rein in Elon Musk, and I think the Trump team can rein in Elon Musk. There's a lot of people he's listening to. Okay, so Nigel Farage thought that Elon Musk was his best buddy. Then Nigel Farage got turned on by Elon Musk. And now there's a lot of scrambling going on inside, Reform UK. Could Elon Musk turn on Donald Trump, Albert? I think that's speculation, but I mean, I think a lot of people in the media would love that because then they get to talk about Elon Musk more. Well, that's it. I'd like to say thank you to you, Professor Joan Donovan from Boston, and Albert Eisenberg from currently Charleston, South Carolina. Thanks to both of you. This was the Forecast, the American Forecast, and see you again soon.